Welcome to Parents Weekend at your United States Air Force Academy. My name is Mike Peterson, proud graduate of the class of 1987, and I work in our Communications and Outreach office here at the Air Force Academy. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We know this is a very important weekend for you, and I know that you're eager to spend time with your son or daughter. So again, thanks for taking time to come listen to our senior leaders and learn a little bit more about your Air Force Academy. For the more seasoned parents in the room, welcome back. For our new parents, if you have a fourth class cadet here, could you please raise your hand? Nice, outstanding. Congratulations to you and your son and daughter. How many USAFA grads do we have in the room today? Fantastic, right on. So a little interesting fact, we have 47 sons and 15 daughters of USAFA grads in the class of 2027. How many parents with us today that have no prior military experience? Wow, right on, okay. Well, welcome to you as well. We hope you have a phenomenal weekend here at the Air Force Academy. Let me tell you just a little bit about the class of 2027, our newest class. 22% of the class were in student government in high school. 53% were in the top 10% of their class. 45% were in the National Honor Society, and 79% led in at least one sport. They represent every state in the nation, as well as Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, the Northern Mariana Islands, and 14 other countries from around the world. And let me tell you, they're sharp. I'm super glad I didn't have to compete with them to get into the academy. So for everyone in the room, you can be very, very proud of your cadets' accomplishments. And again, hope you have a great time with them this weekend. Without further ado, we're going to get into our senior leader panel. In just a few moments, you're going to get to hear from our superintendent, our commandant, the command chief, our dean of faculty, and our athletic director. After they share some comments with you, you're going to have the opportunity to ask some questions. When we do open up the floor for questions, please raise your hand, and one of our mic runners will bring you a microphone. For those really tough questions, we brought in some reinforcements. In the front two rows there, center section, those are our phone a friend rows. We have commanders and directors from across the base to help provide additional information as necessary. So now let's get started. It's my pleasure to present to you the 21st Superintendent of the United States Air Force Academy and a proud member of the class of 1986, Lieutenant General Richard Clark and his leadership team.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good to see everybody out here. Did you guys get to take part in the info fair downstairs? How'd it go? Real good or just okay? Because I got to go deal with some people if it wasn't real good. So. No, but seriously, we're glad that you're all here. We do look forward, all of us senior leaders here, look forward to any questions that you have, but of course we'll start off with just some updates, maybe prime some thoughts for you to have some discussion with us. So we won't spend a lot of time going through our updates, but we do really want to get to your questions and see what's on your mind. But the first thing that I want to say is thank you for being here, and thank you for sending your sons and daughters to the Air Force Academy. Our school, we believe it's special, and it is special, but it's only special because of the people that come here. And the folks that come here are committed to something bigger than themselves, a purpose that our country needs them to commit to, and your sons and daughters have done it. And you have nurtured them and raised them and helped them along the way. And I know that there's other people, maybe they're not your sons and daughters, but maybe they're your family members, your friends, but regardless of it, it was a support network that allowed them to be where they are, to be at our academy right now, so thank you for that. As they've come in, we've shared with them what the priorities are of our academy. And the very first priority is to develop leaders of character for our Air Force and Space Force. And that is the prime directive of the Air Force Academy. We would be just another college, honestly, if we weren't doing that and preparing these cadets to go out and lead our country into the future. And when we talk about a leader of character, there's the core values that we have. And let me share a quote with you that I love. And I know that our permanent party who's here to really handle your questions know this, but it's from a philosopher, Lao Tzu, 500 BC. And he said, your thoughts become words, your words become actions, your actions become habits, your habits become character, and your character is your destiny. And we want to help our cadets shape their destiny, because their destiny is our country's destiny. And so, there we go. And so we start with the thoughts and the words, and those are our core values, our Air Force core values. Integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. But then, how does that translate into the habits and the character? Well, for integrity first, what we would expect to see from one of our cadets as they develop is that they will live honorably. They will live honorably in everything that they do, regardless of their personal, whether it's their personal life, their professional life. That's how they live their lives, as honorable people with integrity. When we talk about someone who puts service before self, that's a person that lifts others to be their best possible selves. And we've all seen people that will do the job on the backs of their people. They lift themselves before they lift their teammates or their squadron mates. But we need people that are going to lift others even before themselves so that others can be the best that they can be. And then when we talk about excellence in all we do, it's easy to say, well, we just want to be the best. Well, that's a tough measure to take. But what we do know is that we can get better every day. And so when we say excellence is about elevating performance. And every day, you're better today than you were yesterday. You're better this time you participate in an event than you were the last time. You are in a mindset of constantly getting better and climbing that ladder to excellence. And those are the habits and actions that we expect to see from our cadets. Living honorably, lifting others, elevating performance. That will result in the character that our country demands, which will shape their destiny and our destiny. So developing leaders of character is the prime directive, and that's what we talk about in our leader of character framework. So I wanted you to understand that, because I think you're going to see changes in your cadets over the years, and I want you to understand why. Our second priority is to prepare for future conflict. And whether we like it or not, our cadets are prepared to go out and win our nation's wars. And they have to prepare for that conflict. And whether it's a kinetic war where there's actual violence involved, or whether it's just elevating our country on the national stage, there's always conflict in the national security arena. And our cadets have to be ready to solve problems that they don't even know about. They have to be able to look at our adversaries, understand what the threat is, and make sure that our country is on the absolute best posture it can possibly be on. And what that requires is certainly knowledge, but it also requires skills. It requires the skills to solve problems that we don't even know about, that they don't even know about. Because we're not just talking about 5 years into the future, we're talking about 10 or 15 or maybe even 20 years into the future. And they're gonna have to be ready to solve those problems and ensure that America is always at the top of the global stage. And that's what we're talking about when we say to prepare for future conflict. And you're gonna hear from our dean about so many different things that her team is doing. You're gonna hear from our athletic director, our commandant, about how they're helping to mold our cadets so that they're ready for that conflict. We have an Institute for Future Conflict that has been stood up, led by a good friend of mine, Lieutenant General Vijay Shwedo, to ensure that the entirety of our academy is focused on preparing our cadets for that conflict and their duty when they graduate from here. So, preparing for future conflict is the second priority. And the third priority is to cultivate a culture of dignity and respect. And that is imperative, because when you think about our Air Force and Space Force, it's simply a series of teams, squadrons, units, flights that are ready to go out and execute our strategy. But the only way that smallest building block, the team, is effective is if it's led by a leader that institutes dignity and respect into everything that they do. And so we want our cadets now to be prepared to lead people that maybe don't look like them, maybe don't think like them, maybe don't come from where they come from, but they have to be able to respect those people, to ensure that they feel the dignity that they deserve as part of our members, but then they all have to come together to support and defend our Constitution. They all have to come together to win our nation's wars. And the only way that happens is when they're led by a leader who understands how to lead with dignity and respect. And I will say, we're not perfect there. Our culture here at the Academy, we have to make some adjustments. And a lot of you have heard about some of the issues that all of our service academies are dealing with right now with regards to sexual harassment and sexual violence. And right now, that is at the forefront of the culture changes that we're making here. But those culture changes aren't just for here at the Academy, although vital here at the Academy, it's also about when they get into our active duty Air Force and Space Force. Because this problem is also an issue in the Department of Defense and throughout, and frankly, it's an issue in our country at large. So this is something that our cadets are gonna understand how to prevent these behaviors from happening, how to respond to victims and survivors when they suffer from these crimes, and then how to hold people accountable when they perpetrate these crimes. So it's a culture change that we're in the midst of right now through our Let's Be Clear campaign, but it is the highest priority right now because dignity and respect starts here and it carries throughout. So those are the priorities that we have. First, to develop leaders of character. Second, to prepare for future conflict. And third, to have that culture of dignity and respect for all. And we're very proud of the direction that our academy is going in, but mostly we're proud of your cadets because they embrace it, they own their development, and they're moving forward so that they can actually lead our country. So now to get into some more of the details and really expound on some of those priorities, I have our leadership team here. I'm going to turn it over now to our command chief, Chief Master Sergeant Eddie Diaz. He's coming to us from Germany. He was the command chief of 3rd Air Force at Ramstein Air Force Base, and a man with a huge wealth of knowledge. I call him the Renaissance man because he does everything. Every time I tell him I did something, he's like, "Oh wow, did that 10 years ago." Thanks, Chief. But he is a special leader. We're very lucky to have him and his wife Marcella on our team. And now I will turn it over to Chief Diaz. Sir, over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your United States Air Force Academy. I'm so thankful that you're taking the time to join us today. Like the General shared, I'm new to this team. I've been on this team for 3 months, and I came from Ramstein, where I was the command chief for 3rd Air Force. Our team was leading 33,000 American airmen in Europe. And coming from that environment, I was in direct support of our NATO operations and keeping the Russians at bay as they continued to attack the Ukraine. But also I was part of an amazing humanitarian airlift that took place 2 years ago when we brought Afghanis to the United States in search of a better life and for freedom from oppression from the Taliban. So when General Clark reached out to me and said, "Hey Chief, I have these 3 priorities at our Air Force Academy in developing leaders of character, preparing for future conflict, and demonstrating and enforcing dignity and respect for all. You're the type of chief that I would like for you to come to this organization and because of your vast experiences." In the time that I've been here for 3 months, I want you to know how proud I am, but I want you to be extremely proud of what is going on here at our United States Air Force Academy. Since day one, I have integrated myself not only with our staff and our faculty, but with our cadets. And they are doing some amazing things. And they get it. From soaring with them, maybe you've seen that, seeing them do that, to being out in the middle of a field as they do evasion training and combat survival, to being with the Dean of Faculty and understanding some of the amazing research they are doing, from understanding human behavior and culture in Africa, to figuring out ways to disarm weapons on the battlefield, to understanding things that are floating out in space, to pulling in other organizations in our government to take a whole of government approach to understanding our adversary. And then finally, in our athletic department, where we're really teaching a good foundation of warrior ethos, I've had the opportunity to see our teams practice, Last Sunday, I got to see our women's soccer team beat Northern Colorado University. There's just so many incredible things that our cadets are doing that is preparing them and are in line with our superintendent's priorities. And I want you to know that you can't be more proud of them and what they're doing, because they really are our future, and I'm honored to be part of this team that's developing them. And finally, I want to share, in the course of time that I've had the opportunity to serve in our United States Air Force, as a chief, my last 6 commanders that I've had the opportunity to serve have all been graduates of this Air Force Academy, and they're all general officers. And when they asked me to come and serve as their chief, I'm extremely honored. And the level of knowledge and competency and leadership that they bring to the team, to the Air Force at large, is absolutely amazing. So what's my role here? What is it that I do? Well, I am the most senior enlisted leader here at this organization, and I'm the eyes and ears for the superintendent in all things regarding readiness, health, morale, welfare, and development of not only our enlisted that are here, but the entire organization. We help fight for resources and ultimately fall in line and get after our superintendent's priorities, again, of developing leaders of character, preparing for future conflict, and making sure that everybody is treated with the utmost of dignity and respect, and they learn how to do that. I look forward to your questions. Again, thank you so much for being with us here today. And at this time, I would like to introduce you to our Commandant, Brigadier General Gavin Marks. Sir, over to you.
Family, friends, teammates, good morning.
Morning.
So, I don't need to tell you thank you for being here to visit your loved ones, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I've had the opportunity over the last week or so to talk to several cadets, and they are all bursting at the seams with excitement that you're here. I was 31 years ago, and we are now very excited that you're here. Thank you for being here. I'm Gavin Marks. I am the Commandant of Cadets, and in that position, I'm responsible to the superintendent for commanding the Cadet Wing. The Cadet Wing is the organizational construct that has command and administrative control over 4,000 cadets and about 200 to 300 permanent party cadre and staff. We are responsible to the superintendent for military training and development, commissioning education, for the honor code and its administration. We're also responsible for cadet clubs and cadet life, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, discipline as well. That's a tall order. We have a lot that we want to get done. Our mission is to develop and inspire cadets to become leaders of character so that they become committed to serving in the profession of arms. To get after the superintendent's priorities, we have 3 focus areas. First, we are going to advance our culture of dignity, respect, and accountability. Second, we're going to develop robust, relevant, and repeatable training. And third, we're going to increase our commitment to and appreciation for the profession of arms. To do that, I have tremendous trust in the 40 commanders, the 80 academy military trainers, and the 100+ cadre and staff that are part of our team to get after the business of developing these cadets into leaders of character. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you this to keep it short. We are grateful that you're here. We're grateful that you trust your cadets to us to develop them. And most of all, thank you for what you do and what you represent. Thank you for allowing us to have the opportunity to develop your sons and daughters and loved ones. Thank you very much.
Here at the Air Force Academy, and I can't thank you enough for the amazing sons and daughters that you have put into our classrooms. They are truly remarkable. I want to give you just a quick overview about what we believe our faculty are here to do. They're here to challenge your cadets. Our mission is to develop warfighter scholars who are ready to lead our Air Force and our Space Force, and we do that through our core curriculum and through the experiential learning opportunities that your cadets get to take part in. So for example, they have a rigorous core curriculum, and I have a feeling At least at some point, you have heard a complaint about this course, that they didn't get an opportunity to select. You're right. That's our core curriculum. Why do we have 98 semester hours, one of the last bastions of a liberal arts education here at the Air Force Academy? It's because I have yet to be able to predict the future. I'm working on it. We know, though, that your sons and daughters are going to be the ones to lead our profession of arms, to deter, and when deterrence doesn't work, to fight and win our nation's wars. And because we cannot predict what that future conflict is going to be, we future-proof them. And we future-proof them through our core curriculum that is tied to 9 institutional outcomes, so that the men and women who graduate from this academy know how to think critically and communicate clearly, so they understand ethics and respect for human dignity. They know a thing or two about national security and leadership and teamwork. All of our core curriculums, as well as experiences in the cadet wing and the athletic department, are distinctly tied to those 9 institutional outcomes. And then, for good measure, we give an opportunity to select one of 30 academic majors. They can also add one of 20 academic minors. 8 of those are actually language minors. We have another 8 that are warfighting minors that get after interdisciplinary approaches to future conflict. And then another 4 that are specifically designed around various leadership minors. So with that, we are awfully proud not only of what your cadets do in the classroom, but as importantly, the experiential learning opportunities that they have to take what they're learning in the classroom and go and apply it. We're the #1 funded undergraduate-only research institution in the country. We have over $40 million of research that we expend every year, and that's your cadets doing research. You can add up all the other military service academies and then multiply ×2, and they don't reach the amount of research that we do. They also get an opportunity to do that research in places other than the academy. 370 of your cadets went around the world last summer to engage in research and to apply what it is that they're learning on real-world problems facing not only our profession of arms, but also society and the world itself. They're unbelievable. We will continue to challenge them, and for where are my class of 27 parents that are, oh, right, that's fantastic. I have a question that you need to ask your cadet, and it is the following. It's a question that I ask your cadet, and I've asked every cadet class that has preceded them, and it goes something like this. Is it enough to survive the United States Air Force Academy? And the correct answer to that is no. Instead, what we ask them to do is to thrive here. And if there's a time or a place that you believe that your cadet isn't thriving, I'd ask you to talk to them about why that is. Because we are all here to develop them and to provide opportunities so that they can thrive in this environment, in this culture. And we believe that when we do that, they will be the most amazing second lieutenants who will go out and lead our Space Force and our Air Force. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my teammate and your athletic director, Mr. Nate Pine. Thank you.
Good morning. Great to see you all. Thanks for being here. I'm Nathan Pine. I'm our Director of Athletics, and that's kind of the third, athletic department is the third stool on the developmental, or third leg on the developmental stool here at the Academy. Looking down the stage here, I'm the longest tenured leader on the stage. As a civilian, I get the irony, but coming on 5 years, now leading our athletic department. And our athletic department looks a little bit different than any other college or university in the country. And that includes our sister service academies. Our athletic department interacts with every single one of your cadets during their 4 years here multiple times. So we oversee all instruction. So some of this is coursework in the core that the dean was talking about, and some of it is also an elective. So core coursework includes combatives, water survival, boxing, that all of your cadets will take during their time here with us. And then we also have electives beyond that. We also oversee fitness testing and reconditioning. If we have someone with challenges that can't quite get there, we help them get there to meet the standard for commissioning, and we do quite well at that. And then we also have a varsity athletic program, 27 teams, most of which compete in the Mountain West Conference. You're all familiar with that. We talk about it, and we celebrate that a lot. But our athletic department actually encompasses all of the physical mission here at the Academy, and I'll report that we're doing quite well on all three fronts, and many more. But I'm the last person in line before you get to your questions, so I'll stop there and look forward to engaging with you on things that are important and top of your mind right now. But thank you all for being here. Cheer loud tomorrow. We've got to get a win to get the season started in football. We're going to have a great time. Go Falcons.
All right. I'll tell you, this is just a quick funny note. My parents decided to come out for Parents Weekend for old time's sake. It's kind of funny. Yeah, they're here, right? And I'll tell you that for. But last night we had an event at our house, so of course I invited them and they were there. And I was like, oh man, what have I done? I've unleashed my parents on people who know me. And I hear my dad or my mom walk up on a conversation and my mom goes, do the cadets complain as much as you did when you were a cadet? I was like, Mom, no, not now. And then I hear my dad, I like sneak up behind him and he's talking to someone, he's like, yeah, he struggled as a cadet. We were always wondering if he was gonna make it or not. I'm like, oh, Dad, I'm assuming you can't tell people that. You know? So there's, as proud as I am that they're here, there's a little bit of risk. And I'm like, oh man. So now really, I wish they had come to one of these sessions, because when they came to Parents Weekend, but they just wanted to like hang out with me and stuff and go to the football game. I was playing football. But this is your time really to answer questions, because there's always a couple sides to every story. And I think now we have the experts right here on the stage, but more importantly, right here in the audience, the people that are actually getting the work done in the trenches for us. So we do look forward to any questions you have or anything you want to talk about. Just a subject or a topic that we might be able to expound on just a little bit. So there's some mics right here in the front so we can hear you a little bit better. But the floor is open.
Yes, good morning, everybody. So there's a first team, and however, it seems like from prep school or from high school, they all have a different way to do time management for learning. And I know he struggled with that in the beginning, how, do you set a calendar, do you put things on your laptop, and, trying to, try to get things early, or you're at the last minute, these processes of learning and how you're bringing it from a private sector into a military sector to accomplish the tasks they need to do. How do you develop that time management, that drive to take your time, get it right, and get it on time?
No, that's a great question. So I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to turn over to our dean because she's the one that piles it on the most. So I got to let her talk about this. But here's what I'll tell you though, sir, and it's really a great question, because when I think about the things that the Academy did for me, I am, and you can ask my staff, I am the ultimate in procrastinator. I'm the one that goes, squirrel, I see something and I'm like, try to go to, it's just how I am, and I see it in my own kids too. They get it naturally. But what I will say is the Academy, there is a lot. I mean, we are stuffing a lot into the sock, right, for those cadets. And one of the things that I am so grateful for this place is throughout my career, just being able to prioritize and to manage my time in my own way and the way that I need to do it, because I'm not one of those people that comes naturally, but going here really helped me to understand prioritization, understand what's important, what the big rocks are, and then moving from there. And so a lot of it is just the experience of going through the Academy. And how do you, as an individual, manage your time and figure out how to do that the best way possible? But it's been key to me throughout my career. From the time as a second lieutenant 40 years ago, I graduated in 1986, and it has served me so well. But I will turn it over to the D to get into a little bit of the technical ways or things that I know the Dean of Faculty does to help cadets manage, but from my perspective, it works. What we do here absolutely works, because otherwise I'd have drowned a long time ago. So, Dee?
Yes, sir, and I'll take a lot of the responsibility for keeping your cadets busy, but I have some equal partners here that are joining me today. Well, one of the things, and sir, I appreciate the fact that you said that you were a first-year parent, a class of 24. We actually started a program that has gotten better every year since the class of 24 first came through, and it's called our onboarding program. And what happens after the Commandant does an amazing job taking your sons and daughters and turning them from civilians into military members, we then spend about 5 days in onboarding to help them turn from high schoolers or preppies into college students. And we do that by having conversations and talking about tools on precisely the things that you were referring to: time management, strategies to approach studying, where those resources are. And so every cadet who is currently here has been through an onboarding program, but every year that onboarding program has gotten better and better. We know it's working because our Academic Success Center, which is another place that is available to all of your students to go and get extra instruction, has seen record numbers of cadets who are coming and asking to get additional help and support across the academic curriculum. The other thing that is available to all cadets, some cadets are automatically enrolled in this, is we have a learning strategies class during the 4-degree year, that freshman year. And so we help those students, anyone can sign up for it, but we take a select few and make sure that they sign up for it. And so lots of different opportunities. All of your cadets, when they are also 4 degrees, will receive an academic advisor who is specific to their squadron. And that academic advisor, we call him an AOCA. That AOCA has approximately 12 to 13 cadets as an advisor. And they go through not only development on what major are you going to select, but they also talk about those learning strategy opportunities within some small group sessions as well. So with that, we believe that at the end of the day, our cadets, time management is something that they've learned a lot of. And if you want to ask them a question about their time management, you can also ask them, so how much Netflix have you been watching this week? There's an easy way to fix that. You disconnect the app. Or you only watch it on the weekend. And so as we think about those time management skills, I think all of us play a part, but our cadets are certainly learning from each other, as well as receiving some specific course development to get a little better at it. Thank you.
Good morning. I want to thank you, all 5 of you, for the leadership you've shown to our cadets. I'm a parent of a first state, and I have 2 quick questions. The first is, can you illuminate the process that you use to assign jobs? And second, can you tell us when you're going to drop jobs?
Yeah, they'll get their jobs before graduation for sure. So the process, as you know, the cadets, it starts with cadet preferences. And we've actually gone to, and I do have our A1 here, so Dale, okay, Beth Claude, she can expound on some of those. You might want to get a mic, Beth, just but the cadets get to lay down their preferences, and they've already done that. They do that in their junior year. And then much of it, honestly, goes to Air Force Personnel Center. And there's a lot of factors that go into what jobs they actually get. A lot of it is based on their order of merit as cadets. A lot of it is based on their major, where their expertise is, and a lot of it is based on needs of the Air Force. So there are several factors that go into the process. But I'll say that as much as we would like the case to be that it's just about the Air Force Academy, Air Force Personnel Center, who does much of the work for this, also has to deal with ROTC cadets and OTS cadets, and pull all of those new, what we call accessions, the new lieutenants that we have, to ensure that we have the right spread throughout our Air Force on those jobs. And so the factors that go into it will ultimately lay out which job preferences they get. A lot of our cadets, 96, will go to the Space Force. We'll have and this year, the pilot slots will be a little bit smaller because the Air Force is well behind in pilot training right now because of COVID, and the backlog is so great that they had to slim down on the number of pilot slots. We're still working on some of that right now, but I'll just let that be known. And then we have every other job title that's out there after that. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but in the end, most of the cadets will get, among their top preferences. Not everyone is going to get the #1 preference, and maybe not the #2, but generally we're in the top 3, and we push to be in the top 2 for all of them. That's the goal. But Beth, do you have anything to add to that?
So to answer some of your question, #1, General Clark did a great job of explaining the process overall. We do experience about a 95% selection for our cadets to receive one of their top 3 choices. That's been a historical average that we've seen. We appreciate the same thing this year, we're hoping. We're looking for a timeline on that release, which is driven by AFPC, as he said. We're looking hopefully in the next few weeks by the end of September for that drop for our firsties.
Before graduation.
Yes, ma'am, before graduation, ultimately. It's a very iterative process with a lot of input, a lot of decision. And again, we're hoping that we get that release from AFPC based on Air Force decision very soon.
One thing I'll add to that too, sometimes the delay, we accept a certain amount of delay because there's a lot of back and forth. Once we get the list, we all go through it to see how our cadets fare in the process. And if we're not satisfied with it, we push it back to AFPC, Air Force Personnel Center, for a redo. And then they'll go back and they'll re-rack and stack. They'll get it to us. If we're still not satisfied, we push it back for a redo. So sometimes, in years past, part of the delay is up to us. But I'll be honest with you, a few weeks delay to me is worth it for a lifetime decision that their jobs are, and where that's going to take them and set them on a course for the rest of their future in the Air Force or the Space Force. So it's important for us to get as close to right as we can and get our cadets the preferences that they want, but also the things that, what the needs of the Air Force demand. So it's a tough one, but it's something that is important to us to get right, and sometimes that does drive some delay. But we're hoping to have it soon. So thank you for that question.
I want to thank you. I'm a father of a second-class cadet, so very proud. He's doing great. I appreciate you guys having this time this morning just to answer our questions and get those on the table. I did write mine down because I want to make sure I say this right, so forgive me for reading from my phone. But what kind of accommodations are being given to cadets with religious objections to the new required training of affirming gender and sexual orientation choices? And the reason I ask, just to clarify, is I love the idea of dignity and respect. My son has been taught that since he was a child. But affirmation is a very different step, and I was wondering how that's being accommodated.
Thank you for that. So, as far as accommodations go, what I will tell you is, in that space that you're talking about, there's what we are providing to our cadets. We are not telling them how to think about, we're not telling them what to think, we're telling them how to think. We want to teach them how to think. And as they become leaders, there's just a certain awareness that you have to have when you're dealing with people, like I said, that are a bit different than you, people that they're going to come across in our Air Force. They're going to have to lead them, and they're going to have to be able to understand where they're coming from. And so, as far as their own personal beliefs, that is not something that we're driving. And they can feel the way that their conscience and their personal commitments and convictions drive them. That is their prerogative. However, when they come across a person that is in a different place than their beliefs might lead them, they still have to treat those folks with dignity and respect. And part of that is understanding where they're coming from and who they are and why they're serving in our Air Force. So it's not really about forcing them what to think and driving their own personal beliefs, but it's just about how they treat other people that may be different, that may be coming from a different place. And we've all experienced that. We've all had to work with people that frankly aren't like us. But in the end, what we have to have are people that are driving towards the same common purpose. And they understand that that dignity is there regardless of their own personal beliefs. That the dignity and respect is there, and that we're gonna be led by people that will garner all of their talent towards that common goal. So I understand the concern there, but also understand we're not trying to change personal beliefs of people. We're trying to change their leadership style and their ability to lead the whole of our Air Force and Space Force. So, did that answer your question? Thank you. Did anybody have anything to add to that? Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Oh, we got a mic there. I love the shirt.
Thank you.
I have that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to hear directly from you and to ask questions. So the feedback that we're getting at the start of this year is that the level of intensity around the training and the challenges has been reduced. So my question is that accurate? And if it is there a reason for that? Around the training discipline.
Well, that's news to me. I think I'll give you my thoughts on it first. I have seen the training environment that we've had over my time, and from my perspective, it is the level of intensity is still there. I know that the Commandant, I don't want to speak for him, but we're looking at some adjustments to how we train, but those adjustments are more in techniques and when training occurs, not in level of intensity. So I'm not really sure what the specifics are on that. But I'll let the Commandant talk a little bit about some of the changes that he's thinking about. But I will say this, from basic cadet training, there were virtually no changes from last year. The Commandant came in just days before basic cadet training started. Here's one thing that I will say, though, that I know has changed, is a level of dignity and respect with regards to training. And here's the difference to me. Someone could mistake intensity for how you address people, how you talk to people, the tone of voice that you use with people, and confuse that with a lack of intensity or a lack of desire to encourage and inspire them to go in a direction that you need them to go as a leader. And in my view, that is something that I have driven, because I don't think that you have to scream and yell at people to get them to do things. And I promise you that when you get into the Air Force or the Space Force, if you use that technique, you won't last very long. You won't last long at all. And so what we need to teach our cadets to do is to be able to keep up a level of intensity to drive people and inspire them to do a number of different things along a full spectrum, all the way up to encourage them and inspire them to go to war and to fight for their country. But it can't be done through intimidation, through harsh or tyrannical treatment. That just can't happen. They've got to be inspired, and they've got to be ready to go. And I will say that sometimes people confuse dignity and respect with a lack of intensity, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I promise you the assault course is just as hard this year as it was last year, as it was 40 years ago, when I went through it, as was the obstacle course, as is every other program that we do. But how we do it and how we inspire people to get after those things, we need to make sure that they're doing that in the same form and fashion that they're going to do it with our airmen, the 80% of our Air Force that they're going to be charged to lead the day they graduate. So there could be a bit of a confusion of what intensity means and how it's employed, but the level of training that they get, I assure you, is as effective as it was the day that I was a cadet. Although I will say my class, the class of 1986, had it harder than any other class in the academy. But that's just a fact. I just want to put that out there. But your point is good because things change, but I don't think it's about intensity. I want to give the commandant an opportunity if you have anything to say about that. And if you don't, we're good.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I appreciate the question very much, and I don't know the source, but I will tell you, I don't necessarily agree with the idea that the training has gotten less intense. What I will tell you is this. It is absolutely my intent to take a look at training across all 4 classes, and so I'll start with the 4th class. Specifically, what I want to make sure is that the training is both appropriate and relevant. I want the training to be challenging. I want the training to be extremely demanding because from that, they will develop resilience and grit. And they will be more prepared to handle some of the environment that they will face, not only in their upper class years, but throughout the Air Force and Space Force as well. But we're also going to take a look at the upper 3 classes as well to ensure that their training, and this is key, we want to ensure that their training is equally intense as well. And so what I will assure you is in about probably 3 to 6 months, the cadets that are your loved ones will probably indicate to you that things have changed. That is on purpose. Thank you.
I might add just one quick thing to the end of that because it's just through a different lens, but our coaches, the way we motivate, the way we practice, the way we communicate, looks a little different in sport of football than what it did in 1986 when General Clark was coming through. But it's effective. And so we've had to adapt generationally to the product that we're getting in. I will tell you, the output has never been better. And looking through the athletic lens, I look at our success in the competition that we're up against. And I know that our ability to adapt is what's translating to wins. And so we look at that as intensity. I think there's a lot of different ways that we get the output that we're looking for.
I don't have a question per se. I've got a couple of observations and feedback for you. First is my daughter's 4th class cadet here, freshman, and she was trying to get in here for 5 years and went to a small disadvantaged high school in a rural area. And so the feedback is for the admissions staff, and I've told them this when I talked to them before, but they, I think personally and biased, they do a fabulous job of ranking and selecting cadets, because there were times that, you know, coming from that background, she did other things to spread out and to grow throughout high school. Those things got noticed by your admissions staff. And then she went to prep school for a year, and it's exactly what she needed. Exactly what she needed. And so I just wanted to give that feedback to your admissions staff, that my hat's off to them. I can't take my hat off right now, but I just want to thank you for that. The other thing is Chief Diaz, I-Day. We're driving up, and in the car, and here's this chief that's out of, you know, just perfect. You know, it's got the ribbon wrap, goes up over the shoulders, down the back, uniform starched, and you came up, and it's the little things that turn into big things. I just wanted to tell you, you know what you said? Thank you for giving us your daughter. Or, Well, and I have a hard time not getting emotional telling you that right now, but I've always wanted to thank you, and so I got a chance to do it publicly, and I appreciate that. I know we weren't the only ones that day that you were doing that. We're an Air Force family, and we get it, so just thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I just want to thank all of you for your leadership and service to our country. And I just have 2 questions. First one is for the superintendent, which is, in terms of the pilot training backlog, how do you see that playing out as you think about the classes going forward? And then also, I got a quick question for the athletic director. Women's lacrosse. So you got a men's team, Navy has a women's team. You got a club team, which is great, but we'd love to see a varsity team here too. So that's what we'd love.
Thank you. Yeah, so on the pilot training backlog, the background on that, during COVID, clearly we could not push through pilot training, Air Force pilot training in the way that we needed to. It just couldn't happen due to the restrictions of the pandemic. And that created an enormous training backlog. And as much as the Air Force still needs pilots, it is not a function of do we have enough pilots or not. It is really a function of how many people can we get through the pipeline. Right now, we are backlogged hundreds of people. And the only way that the Air Force is going to be able to really get a handle on the backlog is by slowing down the pipeline into that backlog. And so that's where we're going to be. I don't know how long it will take. I'm certain it's going to take a few years for us to do that in a measured way so that we can still come close to meeting the needs of the Air Force and fill in the cockpits that we have, but also being able to trim down that backlog. I'll be very candid with you. We are fighting hard to get more than our share of pilots out of that, from ROTC and OTL. Fighting is one thing, success is another. So, but we do, and we believe that people come here with an understanding that your odds, if flying is what you want to do, that your chances of doing that are better than they would be somewhere else. So we're taking that forward, but even with that, we're still going to have to take our fair share of the cut from all of the accession sources. So I think, to your question, it's probably going to be a few years until we're able to do that and get that backlog under control, so then we can ramp back up and get to a state of normalcy in the number of pilots that we're able to send through pilot training. And it's other rated career fields as well, but really pilot is the most dire right now. So did that answer your question? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
And on the glass half full, we are taking advantage of that pilot's backlog to send additional graduates to grad school. So the last 3 years, we have gotten additional slots to be able to send individuals to AFIT, the Air Force Institute of Technology. Last year, we sent 70 solely because of the pilot backlog. For a total of 234 members of the class of 23 who went direct to grad school. So we're trying to utilize that time in a smart way. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nate Pine for your second question.
Thank you for the input on women's lacrosse. I get similar feedback on softball and women's golf. And all are great sports, and as you pointed out, have competitive clubs, so there's opportunities there. What I will tell you is we are proportional with respect to Title IX, with the offerings on the men's side and the women's side to our population here at the Academy. And so my focus has been and continues to be in the present of making those 27 varsity sports just as good as I possibly can, and that doesn't currently include the addition of new sports. And so that's not great news to the rugby folks on the men's and women's side who talk with me, or lacrosse and softball. But you have to keep in mind, for a student population of 4,000, just a little over, we offer 27 varsity sports, and that's not counting men's and women's boxing and our cheer and mascot program. So over 25% of our cadets here at the Academy are varsity athletes, and And right now, our focus, and we're doing quite well at it, is supporting those teams and making them just as competitive and that student athlete experience just as good as possible. So thank you, Matt.
Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm the father of a firstie, General Clark. I want to say class of '86 members like myself and Arnold Tuck were really good looking. And this is more about athletics. In the spirit of United We Endure, the motto of the firsties, I'm kind of wondering, my understanding is that all the cadets are required to attend the home football games. Maybe as a suggestion, what about pondering having the cadets choose which of the 27 varsity programs they want to support? Not necessarily just the football, but say you have to go to a couple of different athletic events every year, and football, women's soccer, you choose. Thank you very much for everything you do.
I appreciate that feedback, and the Commandant and I are starting some discussions about something like that. We will continue to have cadet attendance at football. Highly visible, it's important for recruiting, but to your point, offering a little bit of flexibility for a limited number of those cadets to do other things throughout the year, I think is a great idea and something we'd be very much in support of, but we've got to work out the details on that.
Hi, my question is for the Dean. I was really curious to hear more in detail about the onboarding program, and if I have a dually who was traveling during that time with her IC team, and so what other opportunities will there be for the types of opportunities they did during onboarding? Thank you.
Sure, so I'll talk briefly about the onboarding process generally, and it's not just an academic onboarding. We do additional work on the commissioning education side with the Commandant, as well as on the athletic department side. So for example, during onboarding week, by that point, most of the intercollegiate athletes know how to get to where they're going because they practiced it during basic. But candidly, if you asked a random basic, go get from your squadron to the bowels of the gym and know how to get back on your own without leaving breadcrumbs, they have no clue, right? Because they've been marched everywhere, right? And so part of onboarding is helping them become an independent actor. And so in addition to helping them understand, they get a number of the classes that they're going to be taking. They do a lesson 0 where they get to go around and find all their classes in Fairchild and know which stairwells to take and not to take, and any number of things. But in terms of the actual lessons and so forth, not only from the commissioning education side do they make those up through the school year through the CW side, but if your cadet has particular questions about particular development across, there's absolutely mentoring opportunities and working with their AOCA in order to catch up on those. But we are really proud of that onboarding program. We've seen a distinct difference over the years. So for example, the class of 26, where my 26 parents, I know onboarding is working because the class of 26 had the lowest attrition rate in the history of the United States Air Force Academy after the first year.
Hi, I am one of the class of 26 parents, and I want to offer a slight, potential discourse because I thought class of 94 had it the hardest. I'm just going to throw that out there, just for discourse. But my question's actually more, I guess I will also say my son used that department too. He was having trouble in physics, and he immediately went to that and said they're hosting extra instruction and I'm going to attend. And that is definitely more aggressively seeking assistance than I probably would have ever done. So I definitely see improvement in that regard. My actual question is more on the athletic department though, because I kind of have been hearing, not complaining, but just commentary from my cadet that if you aren't intercollegiate athlete status, it's really difficult to get a good grade, especially things like boxing, where who's boxed before? You don't get experience with that. You're going from 0 to learning a new skill, and that grade can have kind of an outsized impact on your GPA overall. And so he had been hoping, I think, to make a certain level and didn't quite get there because of his PE grade. So I'd be curious to just hear more about your grading insights and standards. Thank you.
Sure, I appreciate it. I will tell you, tongue in cheek, I've got many coaches that have that same comment to me of, hey, why can't we all have A's in boxing? Why is this so difficult? And part of it is the proficiency. And so when we talk about especially these core courses, they are graded, and that's purposeful. So as we look at this, it's not a varsity athlete, an intercollegiate, and a normal cadet taking those courses. There are similar challenges, and I think it's because of the proficiency that we're looking for on the output there. But I do hear it, and we do review our grading not only in the core, so boxing, combatives, water survival. We also look at it in some of the elective courses, though generally the elective courses score a little bit higher, and that's just because of the, again, intended output of those courses.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Ferguson. I'm a graduate started with the class of 1998, graduated in 99, but more importantly, I'm a parent with the class of 27, with a cadet in the class of 27. General Clark, I love your focus on dignity and respect. My question is, how can graduates help get after that? And I ask that for two reasons. Obviously, we have a lot of graduates in the room right now. How can we help? But more importantly, all of our sons and daughters will soon join the Long Blue Line, and we need to continue getting after your focus area, sir. How can we help?
Yeah, thank you. That is an excellent question, and it's not just the graduate community. I think that all of us that serve understand that when people hear that dignity and respect is a focus area for us, I think most of us believe that is just the right thing to do, right? But it is so much about our mission, though. It is about us executing and supporting and defending our Constitution and doing it as teams. As I talked about before, this is about winning wars. This is about driving teams that are made up of different people to do things that otherwise they might not want to do. 1% of our population is willing to put the uniform on. And we need every person to do what the military needs them to do. And without dignity and respect, that doesn't happen. So it's about mission. And so many people go, why are you spending time on that? You should be spending more time on warfighting. They are missing the point. It is about warfighting. And any of us that have been to combat understand, when you get into a cockpit with 3 other people and you're getting shot at and you're trying to evade enemy air defenses and get bombs on target, if you're not all in as a team, you're gonna fail. And it doesn't matter, you don't always get to pick your team. You don't always get to pick the people that you're in that cockpit with, but you have to succeed together. And so this is not about, people say the Air Force Academy is out here for social programs or something like that. That's not what we're doing. We're building warfighters, we're building leaders. And so all of us grads, all of us who understand what the profession of arms is really all about, I think our narrative is extremely important so that we can share that. Parents clubs, different groups in your community so that they really do understand. And it's not just the Air Force Academy. I promise you, the superintendent at West Point, the superintendent at Annapolis, Merchant Marine Academy, Coast Guard Academy, we all are taking the same approach because we all understand the importance of this to our country. And so I think you helping us to communicate that is really, frankly, essential. And I'll also say that a lot of times, the majority of our cadets and young folks get it. They get it better than I think the older generations do anyway. But it is important to us. So the fact that you just asked that question is huge, so thank you for that. But keep spreading that word for us. Thank you.
Thank you for taking our questions. I appreciate it. I'm a parent of a dually. Mine's an academic question, so I'll put you on the hot seat there. So my son said, I have some sort of experimental math. This is weird, like what's going on? So can you speak to any innovation in what you're doing with the math program, how it's changing and that sort of thing?
Yes, we are so excited about this, and it's not experimental anymore. We have run an experiment for the last 3 years on actually approaching the teaching of calculus different than we've done for the last few centuries. This did not start here. We modeled a program after a different college that saw superb results. And we took it slow. We started 3 years ago with a single section. We've ramped up over the last 3 years to compare results between Calc 1 taught the old centuries, old way, which is very clean, it doesn't have a lot of data informed. In other words, it's not calculus in the real world. Versus how we're approaching calculus now, which is candidly messy. And guess what? That's exactly what calculus looks like. So that when we look at COVID rates and when we look at areas under the curve and to understand how this global pandemic actually happened, it wasn't clean sets of data. And so our cadets better understanding how data infuses with calculus, we have found over the last 3 years, not only do they have better retention of their calculus understanding, but they're better able to then tackle upper level division courses in our STEM and engineering because they learn different ways. But it's gonna feel different because it's not the, here I want you to memorize this, like maybe they've done K through 12 in their math classes. And instead, it's, here I need you to understand and then apply. And that's a change for some of our cadets. But we believe, and in fact, have published on just how important this change is, and we've got the results from the rest of the classes. So many of your 26ers and 25ers, as well as a few of the 24s, have also been a part of that change. But yes, it's going to feel a little different for our 27ers, but we have instituted and embraced that wholeheartedly. Thanks for your question.
Good morning, and thank you for taking the time to do this for all the parents. My daughter is 27, and I have a question for the dean. Can you explain language placement? Is that a need of the Air Force, or is that random? And then also, what are the roles and responsibilities of the coaches for the duties? Thank you.
Sure, I'll take the first one and then hand it over to my teammate. So with respect to foreign language placement, we have 8 different foreign languages that are taught here at the Air Force Academy. We do those in proportion with big Air Force and Space Force needs. And shockingly enough, 96% of the incoming class says, I want Spanish. That does not yield the remainder of the Air Force and Space Force needs that we need. We do take your cadets' input and preferences. However, we do not meet the 95% like we do for job satisfaction. How's that? And so we give a language placement test during basic training. We also ask them to rank order their inputs for languages, and then we match capabilities with Air Force and Space Force needs for language. As well as, at the end of the day, how many their ability and their preferences. We do actually factor this in a little bit. But with that, you're going to have cadets who said, I didn't sign up for Chinese. And all of a sudden, they're being exposed to something that is radically different. I will also say that the pacing of many of those courses looks very different than the Spanish one. And so in the end, it all washes out. I will also say that before I became dean, I was a department head, and I got an opportunity to go on a trip that will never actually happen again because I went to the Chinese Air Force Academy. That will never happen. And I went with a cadet, he was a firstie, and we went to hand out awards, a gift to the host nation. And I looked at the firstie and I said, he was about this tall, 6'3", blonde hair, blue eyes. I said, you're going to give the gift to the superintendent at the Chinese Air Force Academy. And he walked up and in flawless Mandarin had a conversation with the president of that university, who looked at his aide and said, in Chinese, how in the world is this possible? And it was possible, that young man had not spoken a lick of Chinese before he came to the Air Force Academy. And between the courses that he took, the exchange programs that he went on, he wowed. And so my suggestion for you, for parents who have the cadet who is complaining about the language course that they got in, embrace it. You might just learn something, and you might open up a door that you never thought was possible. Because we do have an ability to minor across all 8 languages. We then select cadets to go on exchange programs, either to other military service academies or other civilian universities in schools around the world, as well as an ability to go on summer immersion programs. And if everyone became a Spanish speaker, those opportunities wouldn't be available. So I'll hand it over to your other questions again later.
Good morning. Thank you all for your leadership here. My name is Jamie McLean. I'm the parent of our sons of Dooley. So we are anxiously awaiting until about 2:15 when we can actually see him. We didn't get to see him last night. First of all, thank you for your leadership. It's been amazing support, information coming from the Academy, from all the parent groups, from the Facebook chats, all that kind of stuff's great. But with that comes, you're never quite sure if you're getting the right story, the whole story. So on the topic of dignity and respect, and you talked about a new program around awareness around sexual harassment and sexual violence. I had heard that training or that pilot program was really more aimed at the female cadets versus the male cadets. So if you could either confirm, deny, and what are we doing to educate the whole cadet class, cadet wing?
Yeah, I'll take that. I will first thank you for the question. And there was a course that we offered that was only for our women cadets, and it was a long course, and they had to put several hours into it, and it was a pilot program to see how it would go. And we got good feedback from our women cadets that said, first of all, why are we the only ones that have to take this? It was a course that had been used in other universities and was proven successful. But what we realized was we put our cadets through it, but other universities made it a voluntary course. And if a cadet wanted to take or if a student wanted to take the course, they did. And our women brought up a good point. They said, listen, this is a lot of hours. It's only women, and women aren't the only people that are involved in the solutions for this problem that we have. So we took a hard look at that, and actually we're gonna make a change. And that course, we're not exactly sure what we're gonna do with it, but it will not be a mandatory course. If a woman wants to take that course, she can. And we'll leave it at that. It'll be a voluntary course. Now, as far as the rest of the program goes, every other program, every other thing that we're doing in our Let's Be Clear campaign is geared towards the entirety of the cadet wing. Men, women, everybody in the wing. And it's not just about the courses that they take, but it's about anything that helps us to prevent these crimes. The entirety of our cadet population has to be involved in. Anything that helps us to respond to a survivor of one of these crimes. Our entire cadet population, our permanent party, our staff, our faculty, our coaches have to be involved in it. And the accountability. So this is a whole of USAFA effort that we're taking to shift our culture. And the feedback that we got was loud and clear. And that's why you run a pilot program, so that you can get feedback and make the adjustments. And the other thing that I'll say about our entire strategy for Let's Be Clear campaign, it started from the bottom up. It started with talking to cadets. It started with talking to our instructors, our faculty, our staff about anything in our culture. I mean, it was from the courses or the developmental programs that we offered, all the way, and the one I love the most is we removed urinals from the women's bathroom. And people might think that that was a small thing. But since 1976, when women first got here, we've had urinals in the bathrooms. And some of our women said, why? We're not leaving. So why are you leaving? Why are there urinals there? We took them out. We took them out because there's a message there, and there's a cultural issue there. And so all of the things that we're doing is really about a whole of USAFA. It's about everything that we can do to help us to shift our culture, but ultimately it's going to make a difference for us. And it's not just in the sexual harassment and violence spectrum and space. It's about, when you talk about accountability, for example, we need accountability in every aspect of our lives. As officers, they are going to be required and demanded to hold people accountable for bad behavior. So the things that we're doing are certainly going to help us to turn the tide on sexual harassment and violence, but really it's going to help us build better leaders of character. And that's what this whole effort is about. So I don't think you got bad information regarding that course, but we heard it loud and clear, and we're making the adjustment now to address the concerns that were brought up to you. So thank you for bringing the question up, and we'll keep on moving to get our culture where it needs to be. Thank you.
Good morning, Wes Fryer, dad of Julie and a 1992 grad. I have an artificial intelligence question, both academically and
I have nothing to do with intelligence, artificial or real, so I'll go to the deep.
So the first one is academics. Are there any guidelines this year for how students and faculty in terms of ChatGPT and all this stuff, what are they going to do? But then there was a New York Times article just I think in the last week about force structure in China and $3 million rooms and there's a possible vision of a force structure where we're going to be having pilots, flying with uncrewed vehicles. How has the military preparation, summer programs, things like that, changed, in the last couple decades? And are the things with computer science or things that our cadets are going to be learning that are going to be helping prepare them for this exciting world?
How long do you have?
Well, maybe 2:15 actually.
Absolutely. So the bottom line with respect to use of generative AI is that it's going to depend on the course. There are actually some of my courses that are embracing and leveraging ChatGPT and every other form of generative AI to understand where it's good, where it's bad. There are other courses where it's strictly prohibited. So the bottom line guidance that we have given to all of our cadets is you need to know what the policy is for your particular class and your particular assignment. Because sometimes, I actually want to know what your cadet is capable of writing from start to finish. The other aspect and requirement is that regardless of what source of help that you get, we have an expectation of all of our assignments that cadets document the help that they received, and that's not any different than what you did in 1992, what I did in 96, nice blue class, by the way. And so they have to document whether I got help from my roommate, or what is different, did I get help from a generative AI? So that documentation statement remains the same, but whether or not it's allowed to be used in a class varies by class and varies by the objectives that we are looking to get out of that particular course or assignment. In terms of large-scale uses of AI, hopefully, if you haven't seen it already, you'll definitely see it when you're at the parade today. There is a brand new building going up, the Madeira Cyber Innovation Center. We absolutely have artificial intelligence baked into some of our core classes, as well as to any number of research opportunities that our cadets have. But next year, in 2024, likely in the fall, we are going to be opening up a brand new building that has 8 different laboratories, all geared towards the cyber domain. And one of them in particular is actually a UAS swarming place, where we can actually test UAS swarming as well as human-machine teaming in a lab environment, and not keep taking, the athletic department has been really gracious. Letting some of our UASs fly around in the Holiday Athletic Center. They're going to be really happy when we open up the Madeira Cyber Innovation Center. So yes, we're integrating AI research across all sorts of disciplines, not just in computer science, and really exciting opportunities for our cadets to take up.
We have time for just 2 more questions, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Well, my question carries with it a few questions, I guess. My new cadet to the academy had some medical issues during cadet basic training. Started out with an infection that was hard to figure out. Had some vomiting related to that, and got some medication. Went back to training, which is strenuous, and a person with much determination, grit, and decided, even though it wasn't required to participate in some things because of what was going on physically, decided, oh, I'm going to do it anyway, and was given the opportunity to do that. Okay, goes back and does the gas chamber, more vomiting and other stuff. Well, then developed pneumonia, and has, just been struggling with health, and we just found out today, had been in the hospital, and we didn't even find out about it because, just of the independence, wanting to succeed and do it on our own as much as you can in this environment, which is obviously very demanding, so this has resulted now in some academic setback, potentially. She still says, when we hear from her, she's thriving, she loves it. She actually said that she can't think of a better place to be. One of the things that impressed us about the academy before she even came here was the comprehensive availability of support systems to help people that are struggling. We didn't necessarily think she would be in that situation. I still don't know if she actually is or not, because she's, telling us, I don't know how much she thinks what we want to hear, that things are going great, or whether there is actually any sort of a issue going on where she needs some extra assistance, given what's happened in all of her effort and where she's at. So she's also involved. It's an issue where, she's involved in the athletic department in a Division I sport. So I'm curious about not only the academic support for somebody in a situation similar to this, but also the monitoring of a new cadet. And she's also somebody who wants to be very much strictly adhering to all protocols. She's in a class where she's the only 4th-year cadet in it. It's a class that requires a lot of communication, a lot of discussion, a lot of debate. And so she's not wanting to initiate anything, to take any steps to participate in that, because there's protocols of a 4th-year cadet not initiating conversations, at least that's my understanding, with senior cadets. And so, to the extent that that's accurate or not, there may be an intention, that a well-grounded intention behind such protocols, and so I'm curious in the academic side to what extent in the classroom are such protocols in any way suspended, or and are cadets in such circumstances encouraged to operate in the manner that the classroom requires, and how much is the academic and athletic department working with each other, if anybody's having any struggles, to identify what is the highest priority. I know they're both high priorities, they're both important programs and aspects of what's going on here. I'm presuming that academics is the highest priority, and so there's a situation, a number of issues I guess you could address. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. I would love to say academics is the highest priority. However, we are all in on a team, and there is a lot of support that works for your daughter. What I would say specifically to your academic-related questions, sir, first, your cadet and all of your cadets have an academic advisor, and anytime a cadet is having challenges, whether that's due to medical health, something going on back home, and they need someone to be an advocate, that would be the first stop on the academic side that I would recommend that you go to, as well as the amazing AOCs and AMTs in your cadets' particular squadron. And we work really closely together to make sure that there's, that when a cadet raises issues, the AOC, AMT will work with our academic advisor and figure out what's the right return to learn protocol for a cadet that might be struggling medically, for example. With respect to the question regarding classrooms, some of you will have 4 degrees who have upperclassmen in those same classroom environments. We certainly expect professionalism to continue. However, we also expect 4 degrees to engage in vigorous debate and to push back because they are in an academic environment, and that is the importance of that class to be able to participate. And then finally, with respect to questions about how do intercollegiate athletes, then if they're struggling, also work and have questions with respect to what's going on in the classroom. We handle that any number of ways. One is every intercollegiate team has an officer representative that is there to assist the cadets across all walks of life, whether that is a challenge in their sport, or a challenge in a classroom, or in the squadron. And so, as you indicated at the beginning, sir, huge support network that is available to all of our cadets, regardless of the walk of life that they're in. And thanks for allowing your cadets to keep working on those challenges. Thanks, sir.
We got time for one more question, sir.
All right, one more. I'll try to keep it short. We're one of the families who don't really have a military background, so this is all very inspiring, also very new. What are some things that our fourth class cadet could do to be aware of, all the opportunities that, are in front of him, both academically, professionally, choosing a major, which is going to happen at some point, and how, what systems exist to help them make the right choice? Because I know an 18-year-old boy doesn't always know how to make the right choice.
I'll speak on the academic side. We have a majors night. It's September 14th, where all 4 degrees will attend and get to experience and see the various opportunities that are available to them. There's always an app for something, right? And we actually developed an app in partnership. It's called the My Majors app, and we actually tailored it specifically. It exists in other colleges. We tailored it specifically to the Air Force Academy. So a cadet could decide, hey, I know I want to do this in the Air Force or Space Force, and work backwards to a major, or they could start with these are my interests and work forward. And they also have academic advisors that are called AOCAs, Associate Air Officer Commanding for Academics, because you need an acronym for everything, who will work individually on the academic side about what they want to do. I'll turn it over to the Commandant to chat about how we develop and support cadets as they're making choices with respect to professions and future jobs.
Sir, I'd also say that it's important that the cadets, especially the 4th class cadets, they gel or they coalesce with their squadron, but it's also important that they pursue other interests as well. So in the cadet wing, we have well over 100 cadet clubs. Blue Rush, as we call it, which is where the cadets are exposed to all of the different clubs, happened a few weeks ago. I was out there that weekend and I was absolutely impressed. In fact, I was blown away at how many clubs have been created since I was here. We have a beekeeping club. You can believe that. We manage horses here as well. I was on the Cadet Honor Guard, and they are still very, very strong, I'm proud to say. But all that to say, it's important that cadets find a tribe or someone they can gel with. And so that is something that I would also encourage as well, for them to reach out and to join a club. Thank you.
Mike says that's the last question.
Yes, sir.
Great. I will just say, I'll close this out by saying first, thank you again. Thanks for being here today and being involved in your cadets' development. But more importantly, thank you for trusting us with your cadets' development. I mean, they own it. They have to be a participant in it, and they are, but we have to help guide them through. And what I will tell you is, as superintendent, I'm unbiased, but we have such an amazing group of leaders that are extraordinarily passionate about your cadets. and their development and what they are committing to, and we owe them nothing less, no less commitment in helping them to get where they want to be and where they need to be to serve our country. So this group here is absolutely amazing, and the group that is sitting before me that were also here to support us is even more amazing. And your cadets are in good hands. We're not perfect, but I promise you this, we will always, always strive to elevate our performance for your cadets to ensure that they get everything that they need to be all that they can be. So thank you for being here today. Thanks for being involved, and we will see you at all the other stuff that we have for this weekend. And thank you again for your time.